Welcome to the all-inclusive instantly what is Hu Tao all about video here. Don't click forward yet because we're going right into it on the channel. It's what we always do, guys. If you're looking for the perfect substat main stat rolls for each different weapon, we're going to have the best builds video coming out tomorrow. But today we're going over everything you need to know about this character, including still best artifacts, best substats, best main stat rolls, and exactly what makes this character tick and characters you need to be running alongside her to make her work for you. Now, this is all mathematically focused and based. That's what we do on the channel. If you want to see more stuff based in reality, based in mathematics for the characters that you love in Genshin, as well as additional news, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, obviously, for more information. So Hu Tao is ran on one skill. Her entire kit revolves around the skill. The entire way you build her revolves around the skill, and it's her elemental skill, Guide to the Afterlife. Now, this is going to be a skill that defines her, obviously. It's the skill, obviously, that transforms her HP and converts that into attack percent. It's very similar to like Noelle's Elemental Burst that converts portions of her defense into attack. Hu Tao is the same exact way. And this skill has a 9-second duration and a 16-second cooldown. So keep that in mind. You do not have 100% uptime on this skill at all in any way, shape, or form. So we'll get more into it later because you're going to need another damage dealer in your team. I know it sucks, but honestly, Hu Tao becomes like a wet paper napkin DPS when this skill's not activated. That's just how she was designed, guys. I'm sorry, that's the hard truth facts. But the plus side is when the skill is up, she is insanely powerful. So Guide to the Afterlife, you need to be building her HP percent. You guys already knew that, but what other stats do you need? We'll get into that with the artifacts, but do know that she does need all of her talents leveled. There's not like a talent you can skip, you know, that's not that important. They're all important here for you guys here. So this one, she's going to be draining her HP and healing it back up with her Elemental Burst, the Spirit Soother, and just like the weapon of choice for her, the best one that came out prior to her banner, you guys know the Staff of Homa. This one is going to gain bonus damage, her Elemental Burst, if she's in lower amounts of HP. It's not like a huge bonus, as you can see at level 8, 447% normally. If you're sub 50% HP, 558% on top of that. Now, if you are in lower HP, not only does it do more damage, it also heals you more per enemy hit, up to 5 enemies hits. And this is where her healing really comes into play here. She's very good at healing herself back up to full. If there's multiple targets, if there's only one target, you're not really healing yourself that much. So she drains 30% of her current HP on her E, and she heals 12% per target hit on her Elemental Burst if you're below 50% health as well. Her normal attack here, very strong, but is very slow hitting, and her charge attack is very powerful due to the fact that under the ability of her elemental skill, she's going to apply, and we'll show it off in the gameplay, this nice little debuff. The Paramita Poplio State will apply a nice little debuff on her charge attack called the Blood Blossom, and this is going to tick every 4 seconds, and it's got a duration of 8 seconds, so it's going to tick 2 times if you apply it just 1 time there. It's going to tick for 102%, and this goes up even more if you get a constellation. I think it's her constellation 2. It is her constellation 2. It is a very strong constellation, increasing the damage of this by an additional like 5,000 straight up damage per tick, so 10,000 health there. Very strong there. So you're building her HP percent. What is the set that you're using her on? The game did do you guys a solid here. Crimson Witch of Flames is going to be her best set because she is going to be a pyro character, obviously. And what do we do with pyro characters in Genshin Impact? We abuse the broken element system. We're using Vaporize, we're using Melt with her. So this set does 2 very, very important things for you. She does do primary pyro damage with her elemental skill up. All of her normal attacks, all of her charge attacks do pyro damage. The Blood Blossom is pyro damage. Her elemental burst is pyro damage. And the activation of her E also does a tiny bit of pyro damage there for you as well. In addition to that, the 4-piece here is increasing the damage of Melt and Vaporize by 15% there. So very, very strong. Don't get focused on the fact that like every time you use your elemental skill, it increases the 2-piece bonus. Don't get focused down in on that because you're really here for the base 15% and the additional Melt and Vaporize damage. That is a huge bonus because, right, if you're melting with a pyro character on someone who's got cryo, that's 100%. You get an additional 15%, so it goes from 100 to 115%, and then you have your elemental mastery focused in there. It's very, 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 very good, but we'll touch more on that later for you guys. So that's the basis of Hu Tao. You're building her HP percent. all of that good stuff for your substats. You're focusing on mainly crit chance, crit damage, and then your other tertiary DPS stat is actually HP percent. That's going to be the best thing. It outweighs attack percent because her base attack is trash tier, garbage tier, dumpster fire. It's 108, but her base HP is 15,552. So you get way more DPS, way more attack from using her elemental skill based on that HP. So you can see here, she currently has 1,355 attack here, and she is built for a good amount of HP percent. As you can see in artifact details, she's getting a lot of HP percent, another 13,000 HP in artifacts. So a total of 29,000 HP. You guys can do much better than this when you're doing the right substat main stat rolls here. And you'll see this. Now you pop her elemental skill and she's going to go straight up into 3,038 attack here. Now she does have the Staff of Homa on here and quick weapon selection for you guys. Staff of Homa is just going to be her best weapon. Now if you don't have Staff of Homa, there are good alternatives. A 4-star weapon that is very strong for her is the Death Match, because she does gain crit damage as she levels up. You're going to want to focus in on crit damage for her, but you're still going to need crit rate to make it work. So the Death Match there does have a lot of the lower, like if not the lowest attack of 4-star pole arms for you guys to work with there, but you don't really care about the base attack on this character. So you get that free crit rate. The attack percent, defense percent doesn't really matter that much, but it does give you that free crit rate, which allows you to focus more in on crit damage there for your character as she's doing the spooky thriller dance in the background, if you see that there. So she really wants to be crit rate, crit damage, and you get some HP percent in your subsets there. Another powerful weapon for you guys here is going to be, there's two of them actually, they're both 3-star spears, very strong, is going to be the Black Tassel and the White Tassel. Now, if your artifacts aren't really that great, can't hit that 50-55% crit chance rate, the White Tassel is actually very powerful for you because it does give you like 23% crit chance there, and it does have low attack, right? 3-star weapons have low attack. We don't care though on Hu Tao, which makes these characters in combination with these 3-star weapons very powerful, very similar to, if you knew, and maybe you've seen Albedo's, right, using that 3-star weapon that gives a bunch of crit chance, crit damage. Hu Tao can do the same sort of thing, abuse the fact that she's not really attack percent focused, so you don't care about the lower, 400 attack base on your weapon there. The White Tassel is going to give you 23% crit rate, so if you're really suffering from your crit rate not being high, your artifacts are kind of poor in the crit rate category, get the White Tassel, and on top of that, it's also going to increase your damage from 24 at rank 1 all the way to 48% at rank 5 there, and that's a pretty decent bonus for you. The other one to really look out for is the Black Tassel here, and we'll have more of this in the other video telling you about how strong these weapons are in comparison to other 5-star weapons of choice. The Black Tassel gives you 46.9% HP. Now, how strong is that? 46.9% HP if you have her elemental skill at level 10, which is going to be a decent amount of HP percent to attack percent there. If you get that constellation, you take it all the way up to level 13, you can get up to 521 attack just from the 46.9% HP on the Black Tassel. So if you don't have a good weapon for her, you're scrounging around, you threw all your White Tassels out. Black Tassel is also very powerful, and on top of that, it makes you do 80% more damage to slimes, which is pretty strong as well if you want to be a slime master slayer. But on top of that, it's still incredibly powerful for you guys out there. But we're going to have all the math showing you how much better one is versus the other in the other video. Like I said, guys, if you want to see that stuff, the math behind the mischief and all of that good stuff, check the channel out for that later. But you can see just how powerful that elemental skill passive is, and this is why she's so powerful. Now, like I said, it doesn't have 100% uptime. It only lasts for 9 seconds. So you're going to have 7 seconds where she's going to have piddly poopy DPS. So you're going to have like a secondary DPS, but we'll get more into that later. Now, some other important features to note about Hu Tao is the Blood Blossom. The Blood Blossom is very powerful, and that is from a charged attack. Now, interesting things about her charged attack, it has this very long wind down animation lock associated with it. As you can see, you have this, if you don't jump, you have this giant, it looks very nice, where she's like sonicking, right? She's like being Sonic the Hedgehog, trying to stop, and you can just jump cancel out of that. Just jump out of it whenever you want. Just jump. That's the skill that you're going to be applying the Blood Blossom debuff with, as you can see, that will tick. And these enemies are kind of weak, so they're just dying to the damage and then the first tick initially right afterwards. So that is something to take away there. Now you can see I'm hitting worse than pre-buff Zhongli here on my on my normal attack here, and that's because their elemental skill is not activated. Now our elemental skill, small caveat here, you want to activate it 2 times before you use your elemental burst. This is because your elemental burst does bonus damage sub 50% HP, and you see we hit multiple enemies there, and we jumped from very low HP, sub 50%, all the way up to nearly maximum health. So that's the small caveat you need to really get behind. If you're trying to do the most amount of burst damage with your elemental burst, you want to be sub 50% health. And you can do, even in this like cheesy no supports trial battle, up to 115k damage with that elemental burst. Remember, it heals her like 12% HP per enemy hit. So you pop that elemental skill, you want to get sub 50%. It's kind of right where that slash mark is down there. And when you're ready to go on that, then you just pop this elemental burst here. I don't think we'll hit all 5. We'll hit almost all of them, and we're going to be healing ourselves back up to full health. So that's going to be something you guys really need to note there when it comes to her elemental skill, elemental burst, and normal attack, charge attack, rotation. Now you can see just how slow she attacks here, and this is why her charge attack in her elemental skill form is so powerful. It absolutely destroys things. So you want to like land one attack if they don't have Blood Blossom, and then immediately go right into your elemental imbued fire. You see these nice little fire marks that do just die to it. Your nice little charge attack inside of the elemental burst. So that's going to be what you guys are really taking home from her gameplay sort of rotation there. And you see, right as soon as our elemental skill wears off, we hit like a wet noodle. It is not a good day for Hu Tao mains out there. So you're going to need a secondary character, someone who swaps in for a little bit, does some damage, a chill 114k on a crit like we said there. So that's something you guys need to take away. That's really her play style. Swap in, elemental skill, do some damage, generate some energy, and then you're going to swap out when her elemental skill is done. You're going to swap her back in, do an elemental skill, do some damage, and then before her elemental skill wears off, you're going to want to use that burst, heal up, do more damage because you got that big burst, and then you're going to swap back out again and rinse and repeat. So it's going to be elemental skill, do damage, swap out, elemental skill, do damage, burst, swap out. So 2 elemental skills, 1 burst. That's really what you guys want to do down in there. Now, obviously, it could change a little bit if you are somehow taking a bunch of damage during your first elemental skill, enough to knock you below 50% HP, then you can do that. But to get her naturally below 50% HP without enemies wailing on you, you're going to have to use 2 elemental skills before you burst. Now, when it comes to main stats, substats for our girl Hu Tao here, you're going to be aiming for crit chance and crit damage primarily because she's a damage dealing character, and that's just what you want. So aim for 55% crit chance, or 50% at the minimum. Whether that needs you to use a crit chance circlet, if you can only hit that 55% with a crit chance circlet, then you're using a crit chance circlet. If you can hit that 50-55 crit chance without a main stat crit chance circlet, then you're using a crit damage circlet. After that, using an HP percent sands, using a fire damage goblet, and then obviously you have your flower and you have your feather. Outside of that, substats, crit chance up to 50-55%. If you can hit more, great. Crit damage, those are the 2 main focal points for you guys there. If you hit those, then you're doing HP percent. That's going to help you out with your elemental skill, HP to attack percent ratio. That's going to help you out a ton, especially if you have the lovely dovely Staff of Homa, because this will double dip on your HP percent scaling, because not only does your elemental skill scale off of HP percent, your max HP, the Staff of Homa passive is going to scale off of your HP percent and HP. So the HP is really good here, but focus on your crit chance and your crit damage first. That's going to help you out a ton. And then thirdly, look at your HP percent. If you have all of that stuff in order, you're looking for a 4th stat on your artifact, you can look at a little bit of energy recharge to help you get back that elemental burst a little bit faster. Although it's not too costly, it is a 60-second energy cost. And also do note, if you're looking for the biggest burst on your character, you're going to need to be sub 50% HP there as well. And if you're able to build all that damage up in that elemental burst energy up right away, you might not be sub 50%, which kind of makes energy recharge kind of oofsies on her part, because you have basically 2 elemental skills worth of time, which is going to be, 16 seconds plus a couple additional seconds there. It's like 17 seconds to actually fill that elemental burst back up there. So the 15-second cooldown in conjunction with the 16-second cooldown on the elemental skill here means you have 17 seconds, right? You're going your elemental skill, you do your stuff, you're not sub 50% yet to fire off that big max damage elemental burst. So you do your stuff, you swap out, and then you swap back in. You are then below 50% HP, and then you fire off Spirit Soother, so you're good to go there, and then you start doing more damage until it's time to leave again. So energy recharge is a good stat, so it's not like the craziest stat for her. The other stat that you could look for a little bit here, I would not focus on it, only as a bonus stat. If you're looking for that perfect quadra rolled artifact, you gods out there, you're going to be looking for a little bit of elemental mastery. Now, elemental mastery on pyro characters is very strong. We're going to get more into this when we talk about team members, but elemental mastery here, very similar to what the 4-piece of the witch set does. It's going to increase your vaporize and melt damage. You're going to be building a team for her around vaporize and melt. So let's get right into that. All right, so there's one character that is omni-important. Is that even a word? Is that a phrase we can do for this team? That is going to be an animal character, specifically Sucrose. And this is because Sucrose is going to be able to wear that Viridescent Venerer set to drop enemies pyro resistance by 40%, which is going to be huge. That's going to be a huge DPS increase. But on top of that, any animal character can do that. But on top of that, Sucrose is allowed to boost your elemental mastery by a ton. If you want to learn how to do that, what sort of build you're using there, it's a stacked elemental mastery build. I have this build a guide linked down in the description for you. I'll even have it as a pinned comment halfway throughout the day for you guys. But elemental mastery, she can boost your elemental mastery by up to like another 200, which is huge. That's gonna be a lot of extra damage for you guys, because you can see elemental mastery 138 here is increasing vaporize and melt damage by 25%, and she can easily give this off even more 30, 35, 40% damage bonus to your vaporize and melt, which is everything you're doing in this team comp to Hu Tao. So this means her normal attacks, her charge attacks, her elemental skill damage, her elemental burst damage, 35, 40% relatively easily there. Just focus on elemental mastery for your Sucrose build there. Give her the Viridescent Venerer set, and this is going to be because of her ascensions here. So when you use Sucrose to trigger a swirl, that's 50 free elemental mastery to the matching element. So you afflict them with Pyro, Sucrose comes in and swirls it, good to go there. And then you have her elemental burst here, also increasing elemental mastery by 20% of Sucrose's elemental mastery, which is why you build her for elemental mastery. Now, you're not going to be able to swirl Hu Tao's pyro damage, because if you swap Hu Tao out of her elemental skill, then you've guessed it, you lose your elemental skill. So you're going to need a secondary pyro character of your choice. I would not choose to use Bennett in this scenario, because Bennett is a non-bow, ladies and gentlemen, because Bennett is going to heal you up, especially if you are using the Staff of Homa. Bennett's going to heal you immediately, right out of range of you getting them Staff of Homa benefits. He's going to heal you right out of range of your elemental burst bonus damage. He's kind of a non-bow with this team. However, you could, maybe if your Bennett is that big where he's given 1,000, 1,200, he's got a level 13 Fantastic Voyage and he's level 90, at some point he would outweigh possibly your Hu Tao's bonuses, especially if you're not using Staff of Homa, but that's the lower percentile ratio of you guys out there. Not a lot of you guys out there can have a level 90 Bennett with a level 90 Aquila Favonia and a level 13 Fantastic Voyage, so don't use Bennett, TLDR, more or less. Now, another character you could use, because you want a secondary pyro character, you could use someone like Xiangling out here as your pyro support, or Klee. Now, if you have Klee at C2, Klee at C2 is going to be very, very, very strong in this team composition, or Klee at C0 is also going to be very, very strong. But if you have her at C2, she's going to bring explosive frags, which has a defense down 23%. But even C0 Klee is very cool, because you're going to have 2 pyro characters, 25% attack bonus. Not so great for Hu Tao. It's going to be good for Klee though, and you're going to need a secondary DPS character. And your primary function of this party is going to be vaporize, and melt, which Klee also wants to do. Another awesome character to use is going to be Xiangling, because she's going to apply, especially if some constellations here for her, she's going to apply things like pyro resistance down. She's going to apply things like pyro damage up, especially if you've pulled a lot of Xiangling. So think about that as well. She's going to be able to get in there and do pyro resist down, pyro damage up. She's also going to be able to be your secondary DPS character. You're going to want a secondary pyro DPS character though for this team. So keep that in mind as well. You're going to want at least one other pyro character. So you have Sucrose, another pyro character. Then what is your third thing? So you're going to need someone that either vaporizes or someone that melts here. So good option for vaporize. He's actually on the banner. If you don't have him yet, you can get Xingqiu. I do believe he's also available for you guys to pull 100% guaranteed with the star glitter. Finally, he's a very, very powerful character. If you want to learn how to build him as a support, I'll have that linked down below for you guys as well. But this is another very powerful combo here because of his elemental burst, the sword rain cutter. So you have sword rain cutter up, has a very long duration of 15 seconds. That's more than long enough for his elemental burst to match the duration of Hu Tao's elemental skill and then some. So you can have this up for like him using the elemental burst into Hu Tao, does her thing with her elemental skill, and then you swap Hu Tao out for someone like Klee, someone like Xiangling, and you're gonna be able to just go and vaporize over again, and he's gonna be a very powerful character in that situation. Another strong character, if you don't want to do vaporize, you do an AoE damage instead of single target, he's more of a single target enabler. If you're doing AoE, pick your poison of a cryo character. I would not use Chi too much because she's gonna be healing your Hu Tao the entire time for a lot, right, with her ball, with her elemental burst. Not the greatest in the world here. You use someone like Kea, who's going to be very good, right, with his elemental burst there. Swirling little icicles. You hit them with the icicle. You put cryo on them, and you hit them with your normal attack, your charge attack, your elemental skill, your elemental burst. Melt, then the icicle hits them again. Melt, melt, melt. You can just become a melt factory with this team. Another strong character is going to be, if you have Ganyu, will be very good in here. She could also act as, another strong character that can act as your secondary DPS would be someone like Ganyu, right? She's going to allow you to melt for Hu Tao, then she can come in and do her own thing, especially if we have another character to melt off of Ganyu, right? Like your secondary pyro character. So that's going to be another character that is very strong for this team. And then lastly is going to be Diona. She's a little bit of a weird one, but she's also extremely powerful, especially if you have her somehow at Constellation 6. I know a lot of you guys don't have it, but I wanted to mention this one because when the character HP is above 50%, she gives you 200 elemental mastery. So if you have Diona, right, she heals during her elemental burst, but she gives you 200 elemental mastery. So if you're using some sort of tankier sort of a team build here, you're not really finding yourself sub 50% all that often. Maybe you have a lot of energy recharge on your Hu Tao, you're not really hitting that 50%, or you find yourself needing to hold off, right? You have a build where you can elemental skill, do a bunch of damage, and then burst, and then elemental skill and burst. You can burst every time you elemental skill. Diona's gonna help you out a lot at Constellation 6 because you don't care. You're never under 50% HP anyway because you can burst every single iteration during your elemental skill. That 200 extra elemental mastery is gonna help you out a ton, and that will stack with Sucrose's as well. So another fantastic character to take a look at for the team composition with Hu Tao in it. So those are a lot of factors into using Hu Tao. Number one thing to take away, you're gonna have to build a secondary DPS character, because if you don't, you're gonna have those 7 seconds of where you're gonna be a dried pack of ramen noodles, and your foes are gonna look at you and be like, "Are you Zhongli from like patch 1.1 during the alpha or something? Like, what happened to you, brother? What is going on there?" So that's the quick TLDR. If you guys want to see more Genshin Impact content coverage, Jean's looking hot out here, fixing the hair, Dandelion Knight. You guys know what to do. Hit that sub button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.